campaigns as on voting and parties themselves. In these developments, petitioning shifted agendas and coordinated popular pressure. Petitions helped bring us the hallmarks of the democracy we know. Second, much of the development of organized civil society in North America, the fundaments of the democracy that Alexis de Tocqueville saw and admired in voluntary associations, happened by petition. In a virtuous cycle, petitioning campaigns were often sponsored by organizations, which themselves may have been started by petitions for incorporation or of protest. Time and again in the antebellum period, petitioning campaigns left organizational legacies, including the building blocks of new political parties that were far larger and more capacious than the groups that had initially sponsored them. Third, the petitioning authors of democratization encompass peoples and places different from those centered in customary narratives. These different peoples include not only American free black communities, but also women and men of color in the British West Indies, whose activity alarmed slaveholding interests in the American South. The different peoples include thousands of petitioning Indigenous women and men who reshaped legislative and bureaucratic agendas from Canada through Massachusetts and New York to the Great Lakes to Mexico and the Pacific Coast. The different peoples include women who revolutionized the petition canvas and seeded many thousands of deliberative conversations on Indigenous dispossession, slavery, war and imperialism, temperance, and the rights of their sex. The different peoples of this story also inhabited different spaces, including those outside the boundaries and sovereignties of the United States. They include French Canadians who deposed a powerful colonial governor and whose activity inspired the English Chartists, American settlers in what is now Ontario, alliances of Pueblo natives, Genizaros and Hispanos in Nuevo Mexico, Catholic women during Mexico's La Reforma, men and women of color in the Caribbean, and women and men in indigenous villages across the continent. Finally, a more democratic reading of petitions, interpreting them as alliances and organizations emergent on paper, permits a rereading of the role of those who have figured centrally in existing stories of democratization. Henry Clay, Louis-Joseph Papineau, and Robert Gourlay built the fundaments of opposition parties, in part through petitioning campaigns. The views of leaders ranging from Thomas Jefferson to Abraham Lincoln were shaped and reshaped by democratic petitioning campaigns. William Lloyd Garrison, Angelina Grimke, Maria Stuart, and many others harnessed petitioning to build a multiracial coalition behind the immediate abolition of slavery. City artisans and distant farmers united in signing for tariff protection and anti-monopoly initiatives. The petitioning campaigns of Black and Indigenous peoples were highly successful in part because they successfully courted white allies. The inseparability of petitioning and democratization forms the central work of this study. Unpacking that claim necessitates thinking of democracy not only as institutions of voting and parties, but also as a work of agendas, of dialogue between government and citizen, of civic organizations, and of cultural transformation. It also requires a modernization in how we regard the petition, as only in part the supplication of yesteryear, but also a modern technology of text and testimony. Introduction. 1. Signature Moments, 1846 to 1849. In the powerful words of an enduring language, on April 8, 1847, at the Moon of the Geese, on the northern shore of the great seaward flow of North America's Dawnland, did the chiefs Ruipaku, Pat Shadus, Shapatits Altiru, Mishar Ashine, Ruiminik, Arapik Mistakutiae, and 125 other men of the Innu nation address the Governor-General of Canada. "O great chief, who we call the captain of the ship of state," they wrote, "we, the Indians of Tadoussac, of the Ile de Jérémie, of the Godbout River, and of Septile, salute you respectfully." The Innu had come to the governor with complaints and requests. They began to make their